it likely means that the Cardinals not pack it in, still play hard and things like that.
No, but like pack it in pretty much.
But plan for 2024 is the mantra now.
Which it was already the mantra, but now I can't even say they're wrong, right? Like if they had swept this Cubs series, that was my whole thing. And I continued to say there's a 2% chance of that happening. So don't turn around and go, oh, Brenden, gotcha. No, I said it wasn't going to happen. But if I did want to see it play out, and look, now you've seen it played out, and you didn't really lose anything for it. Your pitching didn't get hurt, it doesn't look like. Montgomery wasn't good, but I don't think that'll impact his trade value much at all. I think the same teams that were interested in him before are still going to be interested in him. And now it's up to John Mozeliak and his staff figuring out the right deal and making it happen. But now you're free to move about the country. You can trade everybody that you were thinking of trading before, and I won't have a negative word to say about it. You're done. You're out of it. Not winning the Central. This is not their year. We kind of already figured that, but it was fun while it lasted, that little recent winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, and there could still be a few short winning streaks in them. Who knows?
Yeah, they might not lose 90 games. That's right. Yeah. Maybe not. I think they still could, though.
They're on that track.
They are.
So you have to make sure that you play a little bit better if you want to avoid that. I will say that the pitching, I wish they could have had a little bit better weather this week because, again, you're talking about all those rain delays that they had, especially on Saturday, having to dodge raindrops here and there, kind of screwed up the plan a little bit, and it just makes for a long day, and now you had to fly all the way to Arizona today to try to recuperate. It's tough. So that's why I felt for the players in the moment there. That's they dealt with rain the last week or so at home, and then they dealt with it here. It's just but that's baseball, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't really care about that.
It's okay. I just
being honest with you. It was a nice speech.
I felt for him. That's what I'm saying.
That's cool, brother.
I mean, they were fine last time there were rain delays in St. Louis. Double-edged sword, baby.
Yeah, I suppose.
Swings both ways.
But at least you're at home there, and you get to hang out in your own clubhouse and things like that. But
I agree. We should do those games over again.
They do have a ping pong table at home in the clubhouse. I don't think they could fit a ping pong table in the visitor clubhouse at Wrigley. I don't think that would work.
Or in the plane. I don't know if it works there either. But 875-KTGR, give us a call or a text. Okay, so now that the Cardinals, at least we think, are fully focused on making as many deals as possible, making as many good deals as possible. We'll say that. No, don't just make deals to make them. But how many players on the current roster get traded away? Where should we set the over-under here?
Well, I already told you my answer. What do you think? Yeah.
I think it's fair.
Do you agree or disagree?
That's
what do you think?
It's around there.
Okay.
I mean, we put this comment out on our Facebook page, too, facebook.com/KTGR Big Show. How many players do you think get dealt from now until August 1st? There's folks saying, anywhere between 3 and 7.
I think that's right.
I think that's the fair range. So over under 3.5 players dealt at the trade deadline for the Cardinals. Now, are we talking more players on the 40-man, right? Is that the baseline, I suppose, or active roster?
I guess you... No, I mean, you could... Because some guys are on the IL, like the 15-day, and they could be dealt. Now, Ryan Helsley moving to the 60-day, that changes his scenario. We thought maybe he could be available, but no, that won't happen now. But no, I would say, let's stick the 40-man roster if we can. I think that would be fine in terms of guys that will be dealt before the deadline about a week away.
All right, so where are you going? Over or under 3.5 players?
I'll take the over because I believe they need a bold trade deadline, and I believe John Mozeliak. I've kind of talked about my faith in whether it's blind faith or not, my faith that he'll kind of rally the troops a little bit here to be able to come up with the kind of deadline that they need. So I'm going to actually say over 3.5. Interesting.
I mean, the way that I always see it, and it's not because of insider info or anything like that, but whenever I see the talk of, this player's definitely on the trade block, probably very likely to be moved at some point in the next few days, and you hear all the talk about it and the talk, and then nothing happens.
Right.
So I get a little more skeptical around the names of Jack Flaherty and Jordan Montgomery and Jordan Hicks. They seem like very obvious candidates Does it always happen, though, that when a team's very obvious trade candidates are dealt or moved somewhere? Not all the time. So, I mean, I would say that it's safe to I would predict that 2 out of those 3 guys are dealt, I would say. Not because the Cardinals aren't trying to do so, but maybe they just don't get the deals, every single deal done that they want to get done.
Man, that would be a failure. That would be a colossal failure.
To not get all 3 of those?
3 of them. I think so, because I don't think you're gaining anything by keeping them. You're done. You're out of this thing. What are they, 11, 12 back? It's over,
11
man.
back. No, I get it.
They're done.
I sure hope that they deal all 3 of those guys and get whatever they can for them.
Right. And if you don't, again, like making a trade and it not being a good one is one thing when it involves these players, but the alternative is you get nothing for your team in 2024. I get the draft pick, but they have been very clear in their approach to this whole thing, and it's not going to be prioritizing draft picks that you don't get to see until 2026 or 2027. They don't care about that right now. And so if you keep any of these guys, give them a qualifying offer, like I know there's the whole notion of, well, you could sign them. You don't have to trade them. You could sign them in the offseason. Great. You can outbid the other teams to do that just as easily after having traded those guys. If you really think that's going to be the way they go, which I don't. I don't think any of these guys are on the team next year. I just don't see the downside of it's an all must go liquidation sale. Got to trade all 3 of them to me. And because I'm saying benefit of the doubt to John Mozeliak, from my perspective, I'm going to assume that he successfully navigates that and trades them all because you gain nothing by keeping them. So I think all of them will get moved.
I've put my faith in John Mozeliak before.
Sure.
And I've been burned by it.
But this is a very rigid structure, is it not? There's no pretense. There's nothing confusing about what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah. Other times, let's look at the catcher situation when they got that $87 million catcher that they don't really want anymore.
Right.
When they did that, there were other options, and they kind of made a choice, and we're going to pivot and go in this direction.
Yeah.
Here, there's really no choice to make other than the obvious one of trade the players. And people, there are Cardinals fans who are still upset when I use that terminology because they think the pitching is the problem. Why do they get better by trading their best pitchers? That doesn't make any sense. Find the logic in that. I totally agree, but you have to look at it through the prism that they're in on the business side. They're not going to have these players next year. They aren't. And the only way to have them is by signing them to big old contracts, which they could do anyway. So you might as well get a prospect for him now. And if you really like Jack Flaherty, you can say, hey, we'll still make a run at you in the offseason. At least listen to our offer. And he'd probably say, sure, I want to make the most money I can. So my agent would be glad to pit offers against one another. But there's no reason not to trade them. So if I'm going to be in the mindset of John Mozeliak is going to have a good deadline, then that's kind of where I've planted my flag. And as a result, I think it's very simple to him what he has. It gets more complicated after those 3, though, which is why 3.5 is kind of a very interesting place to put that. Do they trade any of these position players or even relief pitchers that they don't figure will have a role next year, or the guys that they know they've got to move to get a juicier deal for themselves in this trade deadline period? Yeah,
and I don't know how many will be dealt there. I would say optimistically one of them goes. One of that group. I don't know if
is that a position player or a reliever?
Position player.
Okay.
I mean, probably more relievers, but I don't know. I mean, I understand that the Cardinals have a lot of position players that are very similar to each other. I just don't know how much interest there will be across the league for those types of guys.
I think there'd be a lot of interest. That's not the question to me.
I mean, if you're talking about Tyler O'Neill, I mean, where is he in the pecking order in that group? Where is, Dylan Carlson? He's probably at the top of the list as far as teams that want him. I don't know. I'm not really trusting that John Mozeliak gets every deal done that he wants to get done. That's why I'm maybe leaning towards under.
Well, I would be surprised if they don't trade the 3 pitchers, genuinely. Beyond that, relievers that could move, I could see Gallegos moving. I could see more of the Genesis Cabrera types of trades. We said 40-man roster, so a guy that's on the 40-man, but ultimately you don't really see him as part of your future, and so you just kind of get what you can for him. I think 1 or 2 of those types of deals might happen. It may or may not require a DFA to get there, as the Cardinals' 40-man is going to be like juggling over the next week or so, I think, as these deals are made. So I could see some of those deals made. The interesting question would be over under 0.5 position players from like the main crop that get moved. And I mean, that includes the guys that we have heard are untouchable, like Lars Nootbaar. It includes, to me, Brendan Donovan and Nolan Gorman. Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill are part of that. Tommy Edman is part of that. I think the injuries are going to make it actually tougher. If the under hits, it's because they probably didn't trade any position player, and the reason for it is they don't have the middle infield and outfield depth that they traditionally do because of all the guys that are hurt right now. Donovan's on the active roster, but he can't throw, so he can't play the field. Tommy Edman is still injured with the wrist. That was a guy that we thought teams might have interest in. Like, I think teams would very much be interested in the Cardinals' crop of position players. I don't know the level of interest the Cardinals will have in feeling like they've got to trade any of those guys away right now, because even though long-term they do have like a glut at those positions, in the moment where they're just trying to finish the season, they don't because of the injuries. And so they can continue with what they've got in that regard and get to the offseason and then maybe make some of those types of trades if eventually they feel that it's necessary. But I'm still going to take the over because I think there are going to be some surprising moves that we don't necessarily see coming. Like Giovanni Gallegos, you're going to pay him in the offseason through the ARB process, or are you going to say, let's just get a piece for him now, restock the system, and know that it's a total overhaul for the bullpen? So that's the kind of move that if you're really running a liquidation sale, that's a guy that could be dealt as well. I think there's some names that may not be rumored to be on the block, but will ultimately get traded just because the Cardinals have to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. A lot can happen in the next 8 days. So 875-KTGR. Let us know what you think. Over or under 3.5 players dealt by the Cardinals at the trade deadline. 875-5847 to call or text us here on the show. Let's go to Old Jay here on the KTGR hotline. Old Jay, how are you?
Here's the thing that kind of worries me is we're sitting there talking about all these trades. What are they going to get for them? I mean, yes, they're going to get something for them, and that's good, but it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very frustrating deadline because, yeah, I think the three pitchers are gone. They have to be. But the problem is what do we get for them? Because Flaherty can have really excellent stuff one game, and then he looks like he's throwing batting practice the next time. Hicks is kind of, we thought he may have found some things, but I hope, and I hope he does, but is he going to get it? I mean, what are we talking about actually getting in these trades? Anything more than maybe a draft pick or, hey, some guy that's in AA or AAA that might make the club, which is what Mosaic said he didn't want to do. So, I mean, all honesty, what kind of return are we looking for in these trades? Because I'm afraid it's not going to be much.
Sure. I appreciate the call, OJ, here on the Big Show, KTGR. The thing that I see is that when we talk about these starting pitchers getting dealt and you want maybe a starter in return, Brenden, I don't see one of those guys getting dealt as like a single part of the deal or maybe him and a prospect. I think you're either pairing Montgomery or Flaherty with a position player like Carlson or O'Neill or somebody like that, and then that's your best chance of getting something valuable for your rotation next year.
I don't agree. I think you can do a trade without a position player involved, and it's likely that the Cardinals will make trades that don't involve position players. That is a path if you're going to get the better arm that Cardinals fans are hoping to get. I think it would require that, but I don't know that the Cardinals are going to be locked into doing those types of deals, partially because of the injuries to that group right now. You're not as flexible as you feel you are. They're swapping out Fermin with Taylor Motter, who's back with the team now, just because they're trying to find just something to get through the season at those positions because of the injury. So I don't think it's a given that they're going to make a move and pair somebody with a position player and have that be the way it goes. It could happen. I think realistically you're going to get the guys that are at AAA or they've had some big league experience that hasn't gone well, but it's pitching. It's going to be a pitcher, and maybe you have to pair Montgomery with Hicks or Flaherty with Hicks to do one of those deals and get the type of arm, because teams aren't just desperate to give up controllable pitching that the guy's cheap and you'll have him for 4 or 5 or 6 years. Yeah, that's a difficult thing for teams to come to terms with, but when they're desperate enough, when they know that they're on the cusp of maybe making a run for a World Series, and they find that the Cardinals guys they have are more reliable than the young kid that they would end up throwing into the rotation or the bullpen, then I think those deals are there to be made. But it may take combining two of the Cardinals pitchers to get one that you really care about, or the guy you get isn't someone that you really care about, and it is more of a question mark that you're hoping ends up being more of a definitive answer by next spring training, but isn't a guarantee. I don't want to be peddling that this is guaranteed to just reshape the Cardinals organization. That's why before the weekend, Andy, when you were saying, no, a sweep at Wrigley wouldn't make a difference for me, I was saying, yes, it would, because I don't think this is going to be transformative for the organization in the way that fans are hoping. But that doesn't mean you don't make the moves. You still have to trade these short-term guys and get what you can. Can't trade for draft picks. It's not a thing in baseball, Jay. But, yeah, it's going to be guys that you have questions about and you're hoping get answered in a positive way next spring. I don't think it's going to be like they're going to add bona fide ace, future ace types of pitching unless you're trading position players with those pitchers that you have.
Let's go to Sam at the KTGR hotline. Sam, how are you?
Good afternoon, gents. How are you?
Doing all right.
Speaking of teams with GMs who maybe have been around for a long time and maybe on the hot seat. So the New York Yankees are 53-47 through 100 games.
Yeah.
8.5 back right now in the division in last place. 2.5 out of the wild card, and their best player is hurt. You guys play GM. What would you do? Would you buy? Would you sell? I am totally how they should proceed moving forward.
Look, if I'm the New York Yankees, appreciate the call, Sam, here on the Big Show, KTGR.
Call John Mozeliak, see what they got.
Buy every year. I have all the money in the world.
You're the Yankees.
Yeah, you're
exactly.
the Yankees. Like, you got to be your brand at some point. Like, the Yankees, fans have an absolute riot when they show any sort of semblance of selling at the deadline, right? It's not what they're used to. In some way, the Cardinals are not used to that either. But to the Yankees, you've got the payroll, you've got the capital, the brand, everything, and possibly not the best player in baseball, but one of the best players, one of the best hitters in baseball for sure.
And the Cardinals are 12 games below 500. The Yankees are 6 games above. I don't care that they're in last place. That's a flashy thing that you can tweet out and say they're in last later than July 15th for the first time since Babe Ruth, whatever. It doesn't really matter because that's a really good AL East. And right now, if you look at the wild card setup, Tampa Bay Rays have actually fallen behind Baltimore. So we look smart, Andy, for all the times we've had the Orioles in our top 5 MLB teams over the weeks. Tampa Bay, Houston, those are the two teams that are in a bona fide spot for a wild card now. And then the third qualifier would be Toronto, and the Yankees are 2 games back of Toronto. So you're absolutely in buy mode if you're the Yankees for all the reasons that Andy said. And I really do think the Cardinals and Yankees match up splendidly. If I'm John Mozeliak, I try to make that my one-stop shop. I try to say, which pitcher do you want, Flaherty or Montgomery? Hell, do you want both? Would you like a Jordan Hicks on top? Is there a position player like a Tyler O'Neill or a Dylan Carlson or a Paul DeJong even that you fancy? I think moving Paul DeJong would be an excellent choice by the Cardinals at the deadline. I just don't know if they'll be able to pull it off and have the interest that they need in him. But you don't have to get much for him. It's mostly about saving a little bit of money and opening up the spot for a guy like Mason Wynn that I think could be ready by next year. So if you're the Cardinals, man, and they just lost their catcher as well, and the Cardinals have 15 of those, I would really be thinking about hooking up Cardinals, Yankees, making a multi-player trade happen where the Cardinals come away with a Clark Schmidt and maybe another pitching prospect. And if you're the Yankees, yeah, that's a little bit scary to trade away controllable pitching, but you've always got the money to replace those guys in free agency. I think the two teams could match up really well. But if I'm the Yankees, I'm not even giving you the Cardinals perspective on this. I really believe if I am running the Yankees right now, I am trying to buy to win because get into a wild card, you're just as well off as whoever wins the AL Central because you're still playing a wild card series regardless. So I really would be in it to win it if I'm the Yankees, even though they're tied for last. I don't really care about that. I think you get Judge back, you get a little bit of boost for that lineup and rotation. It's conceivable that they could make a run in October, and they kind of have to with that fan base.